Hello boys and girls, and welcome to episode 25 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, on Facebook Live, a very special end of year episode in which I'm going to present to you my top 10 perfumes of 2018. We're going to try and get through them all within an hour. I'm absolutely setting myself a limit of 1 hour, and before anybody gets overexcited or disappointed or underwhelmed, these perfumes that you see here are not in the top 10, but they are here for a reason. They represent a few scents that I thought were excellent, well worth your attention, ones that were contenders for my top 10, but they didn't quite make it. So you can see here, for instance, over there on that side, I've put the Parfum version of Cartier's Declaration, which was put together to mark the 20th anniversary of the original Declaration, and Mathilde Laurent put together a sort of more grown-up version of the original Declaration. I've got two of the three Chanel colognes that Olivier Polge put together for the brand earlier this year, Paris Deauville and Paris Biarritz, my favourite being Biarritz. I thought Quentin Bisch's Nomad for Chloe was a really enjoyable, interesting take on a modern chic, and you can see a few other ones as well. Some of these brands may come up again actually during the course of the hour. This was a return to the Hermescence range. This one in particular you probably can't see because the label on the bottle is quite small. This is the Agar Eben, which was Hermes's entry into the Oud collection, a very, very good Oud. Over there is the blue Acqua di Parma bottle, is actually a perfume that I personally wore a lot over the summer, the Chinotto di Liguria. Really great citrus cologne, absolutely did what it was supposed to do, in the sense that it was just perfect bottled sunshine. So these nearly made it, but not quite, because I absolutely wanted to restrict myself to a top 10, even though as soon as I say those words I realise that I have kind of cheated. Although I think you'll forgive me when the selection is revealed. So what we'll do is I will, as each bottle comes out, I will try and place them here in pre-arranged spaces so that it all kind of looks like a half-decent display by the end of the hour. There won't be a blotter update at the end of today's episode because we know most of you will know these scents anyway, but hopefully we will be able to interact today. So as my choices are revealed, feel free to disagree, feel free to comment. We'll try and have comments going as we go through the episode, which actually reminds me I need to make sure that everything's working on the tablet. Yes, seem to have. I hope people appreciate the sparkly end of year festive shirt. And in the usual way, this video will stay on Facebook after the live broadcast, so you can comment after the live broadcast as well, and then I will try to upload it to YouTube as soon as possible so that it's there for all the people who follow me on YouTube too. And at 4:30, so in just under an hour now, my blog persolaise.com will have the usual blog post version of the list so that the two can go together. And I very confidently said just a few seconds ago you will be able to watch the video forever on Facebook. Of course, last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, I can't even remember now, no, I think it was last week, the glitch that happened, because there seems to be a glitch every single time, the glitch that happened was that I lost the original live stream video and I had to put up an edited version, so hopefully there won't be any glitches this time, but I think for the last 4 or 5 episodes of Love at First Scent there has been a glitch of some form. We will try to be glitch free today. I think we should get going with the list. So thumbs up and hearts and comments, etc., etc. as we go along. Fahmi says hello from Indonesia, and hello back to. So, what time must it be over there? I suppose it must be what, 11:30 p.m. I don't know. What's the time difference between us and Indonesia? It must be at least 10:30 p.m. Karina says Merry Christmas, Persolaise, and a very Merry Christmas to you as well. And David waves, so I'm going to be waving back too. Okay, the first, and Marta says hi, hello back to you. Keep the comments and hellos coming, because this is our equivalent of an end of year party. Okay, right. I've worked out an order for these. Let me make sure I get it right. I'm going to start with the perfumes for which I don't have the proper bottles, the proper full-size bottles, just to kind of get them out of the way. Not that that means that they are lesser perfumes in any way. So, first up on my list of the top 10 perfumes of 2018 is this rather unassuming little lab sample. But this is the lab sample for The Dawn from Frederic Malle, or Al Fajr. Oh, Fahmi says it is 10:30 p.m. in Indonesia. Well, thank you very much for tuning in on a Friday night. This is Dawn, or Al Fajr, from Frederic Malle. This particular one composed by Carlos Benaim. We'll try and do these really quickly. I don't need to do a full-on review or assessment of them. They have been reviewed either on my blog or on social media. You may remember that I actually did an initial sniff of this on an episode of Love at First Scent, and I remained, by the end of that episode, I wasn't 100% convinced of what I've thought of it. Gemma says, hello, I've been looking forward to this list. You need a drum roll. Go on, you do one then, Gemma. Well done, good drum roll. But yeah, we do need a drum roll, you're right. I've decided that this should go on the list of the top 10s because I think that Frederic Malle's Dawn may actually turn out to be an important perfume. The one thing that might stop it from becoming quite an important perfume is that it is just so extraordinarily expensive, and I'll explain what I mean. Essentially, this is a really, really superb leathery oud placed on a woody ambery base. You may remember that a few years ago Frederic Malle released a perfume called The Night by Dominique Ropion, which was basically a rosy leathery oud. It was kind of like Portrait of a Lady with oud. That was incredible. It's still my favourite of the three Arabic named perfumes. This one, The Dawn, starts superbly. I cannot get enough of the leather oud combo. It really, really is one of the best leather oud combinations out there. But it's that woody ambery base that is tricky. Very, very quickly, a lot of you will be aware that these particular types of woody ambery materials are being used to death in masculine perfumery at the moment. And boy, do some of them smell more convincing than others. A lot of them smell really, really crass and crude. And if you think of a lot of cardboard cutout, typical smell of a guy in a gym type masculine perfumes, you're probably thinking of those woody ambery materials. Which is why I was kind of taken aback when a similar sort of thing was, I detected a similar kind of a material in The Dawn. But by the end of the development of the perfume and having worn it several times, I decided that actually this perfume uses those materials really well. And that's why I say that I think it might turn out to be an important perfume, because I think it may turn out to be the last word on those sorts of materials. I think a lot of people may think, oh dear, we can't do any better than this now. Another really, really good presentation of those materials was from Parlement de Parfum, but I think it was in the perfume called Tomboy Neroli, but don't quote me on that, I'd need to check. Really used very well there too. And so that's kind of why it gets into the top 10, because it starts off fantastically and it moves into this extremely well composed woody ambery base, but also because it's almost like sort of throwing the gauntlet down to the other perfumes, saying you're not going to be able to top this, so don't even try. So number one on our list. How many of you out there have tried this though? It's been out for a good few months now, so some of you may have smelt it. Please do comment on this list, or tell me if you think the choices are complete and utter rubbish. Tell me if you think I've missed out some of your choices. Tell me what would be in your top 10 of the year, or maybe even just perfumes that you've particularly enjoyed wearing. They don't have to be new, which is a good point for me to say that not all of the perfumes that are on the list are actually 2018 perfumes. There is no way that I can try every single perfume that's released during the course of the year. So this list, this top 10, is just nothing more than a reflection of what was new to me in 2018, even if it was a perfume that actually was released before 2018. Okay, moving on, let's do another one for which I don't have the bottle. Again, not particularly attractive lab sample. But this is but in this case, I can show you at least what the proper bottle might have looked like, because this is another perfume from the same brand. So here you've got the Writer from St. Giles, but the perfume that I'm going to put into my top 10 for the year is the Tycoon from St. Giles. Exactly same bottle, but with a different coloured label, and obviously that one says the Tycoon and not the Writer, because it would be strange if it said the Writer. This is by Bertrand Duchaufour, one of 5 debut perfumes from the St. Giles collection, a brand put together by creative director Michael Donovan, a chap who has many, many years' experience working in perfume PR and marketing. And each of the perfumes was, you can see I've only just got a tiny few drops left. Mind you, I only had a few drops to start with. There wasn't even a full lab sample. St. Giles. No, I'm not complaining. They were each interesting in their own way. I really like the actress as well. I do like the writer a lot. But I think in the end I decided to... is this going to stay put? Come on. Oh well, it's good enough. We've got the Leaning Tower of Tycoon, ladies and gents. Okay. I think I decided to put this one in the top 10. It's a great perfume, but also it was the one that was the most surprising. Maybe the actress was a great interpretation of what you think a grand actress's perfume might be, a very classy actress's perfume might be. But this was a curious take on a Tycoon. It's a modern chic, very floral, strong magnolia note. I'm getting a lot of citrus at the moment, actually, that I can't even remember particularly from initial sniffs. Strong patchouli note coming through, really, really dry woody note. And so it is assertive, the way you might expect a perfume called the Tycoon to be, but it also has a sense of fun. And some of you may remember that I presented this in another episode of Love at First Scent, and somebody, from my description of it, somebody said, oh, so is it like a French Tycoon? Because I thought that this would be the kind of Tycoon who would, give you like 3-hour lunch breaks and tell you to finish early on a Friday and, go home early and spend time with the family. And so for its original take on its subject, I thought this is the one from the brand that should go into the top 10, and it is the one that I have been counting up my pennies, saving them up to buy. So there's an endorsement for you. I would actually like to go out and buy it from a shop, because I would want to wear this. Maybe there's an incense note running through there as well, which you might expect from Duchaufour. He does love using his incense materials. But I think this is the one that has the most going on in it. And I do like perfumes that are complex and present new facets as they go along. So that's why that gets in there. So we're 2 down. First was The Dawn from Frederic Malle. Second was the Tycoon from St. Giles, I've almost forgotten. And again, another one for which I don't have a proper bottle. As I said, I'm going to get those out of the way first. This is one that I actually just presented on Love at First Scent not that long ago. This isn't a lab sample. I think this is officially the brand's travel size, although I may be wrong. I doubt you'll be able to see what this is, so I'll tell you. But this is from Ex Nihilo, and this is a particular perfume that they released this year called Cuir Céleste, Celestial Leather, and it's made by Quentin Biche, who also made the Nomad for Chloe. And this was a genuine case of love at first sniff, love at first scent for me. I am partial to leathers, it has to be said, but right, where should I put this down? I've got cunning numbered tags to help me make sure that everything goes right at the end. Nothing's done by half measures here. I am partial to leather scents, but this one brought something special, I think, to the genre. It was the most delicate perfume I'd smelt for a while. Anna Maria says, Cuir Céleste, yes, impressive perfume. Thank you very much. First person agreeing with me. You have to comment, people, okay? Although I can understand if maybe you haven't tried some of these. But you know what? Even if you haven't tried them, that would be interesting for me to hear. Because the St. Giles is a brand that, as far as I'm aware, somebody might correct me if I'm wrong, as far as I'm aware, it's only available in the UK so far. And I don't know when it might roll out to other parts of the world. So that would be interesting to know as well. Which of these has actually crossed borders? How many of you have had a chance to try these Chanels, because they're not available at all Chanel outlets. How many of you have tried the Parfum version of Declaration? Get the conversation going. Cuir Céleste, it uses pepper and ambrette seed to both ground and lift the perfume. It's a really, really interesting effect, because the ambrette seed, of course, has a musky quality, which brings the perfume close to the skin. But its pepperiness ties in with the black pepper and gives it a kind of pulverized granite quality, almost like this puff of, like when I've used this analogy before, I'm sure, because as soon as I heard myself saying it in my head, I thought you've done this one before. But that puff of brimstone that you get when Nightcrawler from the X-Men teleports. You just feel like this puff of leather coming at you, black pulverized leather somehow. And the leather note itself was really, really beautifully done. Reminded me a lot of Cuir d'Ange that Jean-Claude Helena did for the Hermessence a few years ago. And absolutely proves that Quentin Biche remains a talent to watch. He's a Givaudan perfumer who's done lots and lots of interesting work. Some of you may remember a few years ago the BBC did a 3-part perfume documentary, and he was featured in that. Right, I've got to pick up my tablet because Anna Maria has left a longer comment. Anna Maria says, Cuir Céleste, we have it in Romania at Madison Perfumery. Brilliant, thank you very much. And thank you for telling me that you're in Romania. A local perfume shop, really nice, great perfumers are coming there to present their perfume. Maybe you can come also one day. I would absolutely love to. I've never been to Romania, and I'd be really fascinated to see Romania. Thank you very much. That would be brilliant. Where do you try and get your perfumes in Indonesia from, Fahmi? That would be interesting to know as well. And last one, for which I haven't got the proper bottle, although again I can show you what a proper bottle from the brand looks like. We're on to Ostens, but it's not this one. Farhaj is waving back to Farhaj. This is the bottle for their Impression Rose Oil Esparta, but the bottles for all of their impressions look the same, and the one that I would like to put into the year's top 10 is the Impression Cedarwood Heart. You notice I had to check because I forgot. Fancy shirt, says Farhaj. Well, it is almost New Year's Eve, so we had to have the fancy sparkly shirt. I know you approve, you're not having it. Excuse me. Very quick recap of this particular brand. Those of you who watched the previous episode will remember that the actual perfumes that the brand makes they call Impressions, but they also sell diluted essential oils, which they call preparations. This is the Cedarwood Heart, composed by Alexis Dadier. Again, this was another one that was love at first scent for me. When I actually had a personal presentation to the brand a few weeks ago, and I was taken through all of the scents, and this one was the instant hit for me. It's really, really interesting. It starts off super green, like a serious galbanum green pepper green, but underneath the green you immediately get this fantastic pipe tobacco note, and then of course the cedar, because the fragrance is built around a high quality cedar wood material. Not a lot of it, mind you, though. I think that when you buy the actual bottle, it tells you what fraction of the perfume the star material is, and I'm pretty sure this one was like 1 over 1,000 something. But it's so well done. It feels, I forget what the story of the perfume is, but I think it was the perfumer somehow trying to revisit his childhood, his past, and it has that kind of nostalgic quality in a way that many of the best perfumes of the year did. Curious phenomenon of this year's list. I write a little bit more about it on the blog post that's going to appear on the blog in just over 40 minutes time. But if you like greens, you need to check this one out. Ostens, I think you don't need to tell me, wherever you are in the world. Ostens is a brand whose wares will be difficult to get at the moment, unless you just want to buy them blind online, because they have only one retail space right now, and it's in London, and it's a temporary retail space. In a few weeks it's going to move to another city in a completely different country, and I think that's what they're going to keep doing. But a brand to look out for founded, a real labour of love for this brand, founded by two guys who absolutely know their stuff when it comes to perfume. So I'll be watching their future releases with great interest. Okay, with 4 down, I think we'll have a little recap and say thank you very much to tuning in for episode 25 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, here on Facebook Live. This is the episode in which I present you my top 10 perfumes of the year. As soon as the episode finishes, a blog post with the exact same list is going to go up on persolaise.com. The video will hopefully, he said confidently, remain on Facebook after the live broadcast, so you can leave comments on it whenever you like, and then I will try to do the YouTube upload straight away. And if you have just tuned in, these other bottles here are not in the top 10. The only ones we've got from the top 10 so far are the Dawn from Frederic Malle, the Tycoon from St. Giles, Cuir Celeste from Ex Nihilo, and Cedarwood Heart from Ostend. The other ones are ones which were they were contenders, but they didn't quite make it. We've got a comment here from David. Have you tried Talc from Junks? I believe it's a recent release, and it was a refreshingly understated perfume, one of my favourites of 2018. No, and sorry, a fantastic point. I mean, Junks is a brand. As far as I know, all of their perfumes are still being made by Olivia Jacobetti, but perhaps they're not. I'm not aware of what they've been making recently, and that's the trouble with, setting yourself up as a perfume critic, where there are things out there that you are never going to be able to try unless your name was Michael Edwards and you have an unlimited travel budget. But seeing as you've mentioned it, David, I will absolutely try and keep an eye out for it, because I do like Jacobetti's work, and even if it isn't a Jacobetti composition, if it comes from the Junks brand, I'm sure it will be very interesting. We need to carry on, because we are definitely going to get this done before 4:30 UK time. So David says it is Jacobetti's work. Okay, well then even more reason for me to check it out. I really, really like her work. Now we're on to the ones for which I have, if not full bottles, then at least proper presentation type bottles. I have like a mini. The next one I'm going to show you is one that I think, technically speaking, was a 2017 release, but it was new to me in 2018, which is why it's eligible for inclusion in my top 10. And it is, mind you, it's still the latest release from this brand. It is Dryad from Papillon Perfumery, a perfume brand which is, I could say, down the road from me. I mean, that would probably be a bit of a stretch, but it's not far off being down the road, because it's kind of west of me in the New Forest, a brand started by Liz Moores, self-taught perfumer. She does everything for the brand herself. She makes the scents, makes the compositions. And some of you may remember that a few years ago she released a debut trio, much loved debut trio. Lots of people from that trio loved Tobacco Rose. I think Dryad is her best work to date. I see thumbs up going there. Is that approval for Dryad? Let me know. This is another green one, actually, and another really quite retro one. But it's very, very self-assured as well. It's not reactionary in the way that some independent perfumes can be sometimes. And already I'm getting this whoosh of greens. It's really, really stunning work. They're green, but it's got bite, and I don't know whether that's because of the inclusion of almost Uranus, but in a good way, florals like Narcissus. There's a kind of honeyed note, definitely a powdered feel to it, and a very, very, very firm base. You feel that base of mosses and woods, and a clever inclusion of something. I can't decide whether it's sour or bitter. One second I kind of think, no, it's a bitter material, then I think it's sour, but it doesn't have that kind of citrusy quality of sour material, so maybe it's bitter, but it's a bitter dryness, and good for Liz Moores for being brave enough to include dry, bitter notes in her work, because then they're not particularly fashionable, they're not particularly popular. You kind of need to keep ramping up the sugar and everything, but she doesn't, and at least not in this one. And I gather Dryad was a big success for the brand, rightly so, and it really, really cements her reputation as somebody whose work we should all watch. But again, I'm not sure how easily available her work is. I know that in the UK, at least last time I checked, her perfumes were available at Les Senteurs in London. Obviously, they're available online as well. The brand has a very good sample service, so order yourself samples, even if you just order a sample of Dryad. If you like green retro florals, this has a real 70s feel to it. And yet it doesn't feel like it's stuck in the past in any way. It doesn't feel sedate, I suppose. It's got a real energy to it. It's got a real vitality to it. So that's the fifth one for today. And at number 6 is a brand that I mentioned a few minutes ago. It's this brand here. Hang on, I should show you actually. Now this perfume, when I announced its release, Karina says available in Bloom as well, I think. Yeah, you may well be right. Okay, we've got some comments, so let's just hide that one, pretend that didn't happen. Marta says, love Angelique. Yeah, me too. I really, really like Angelique from that debut collection as well. I haven't tried Dryad, but looking at the notes, it might be right... try again. But looking at the notes, it might be right up my alley, being a number 19 lover. Yes, if you like number 19, you have to try Dryad. I've put the blotter away already, but yeah, absolutely. And then come back and let us know what you think. I don't think it's as standoffish as number 19. A lot of people say that they think number 19 is cold, which I don't agree with. I think number 19 is simply formal, wonderfully, beautifully, elegantly formal. This is maybe just a bit more in touch with its sensuous side. The greens aren't allowed to completely dominate and assert this severe formality. But yeah, absolutely, you need to check it out. Right, next up, number 6. So we're halfway through already, and we're almost at the top of the hour, so we're doing well. This caused a lot of excitement when I mentioned that it was being released. You may be able to see that it's Papyrus Oud from Parle-moi de Parfum. Gemma says, I'm a big fan of Anubis. It's perfect at this time of year. Yeah, another good one from Papillon. Thank you for that, Gemma. Why did this cause a lot of excitement? Well, very, very quickly, some of you may be aware that Parle-moi de Parfum is a brand that was started by Michel Almerac, legendary perfumer, and his 2 sons. I don't know exactly how it went, but I imagine his 2 sons went to him and said, hey, Dad, you've been making perfumes for all these other people for all these years, and how you're like this totally amazing perfumer. And the dad probably sort of went, yes. And they said, well, how about we make some perfumes for ourselves? And they've got a boutique in Paris. They're available in several shops in Europe, and all of their stuff is really, really good. This came out this year, and why was this exciting? Well, one of the perfumes for which Michel Almerac was most famous for having made was the 2003 version of Gucci Pour Homme from the Tom Ford era. Some of you may remember it's the perfume that was this precision, perfect balance of incense, pepper, amber, cedar, and then it was discontinued, and fans of the perfume, of which I was one, wept and cried. And then Parle-moi de Parfum announced that Gucci Pour Homme would be coming back in a slightly altered form, and here we have Papyrus Oud, because it really is Gucci Pour Homme, but made hotter, darker, through the inclusion of a very, very subtle, it has to be said, oud note. This is not an oud perfume by any stretch of the imagination, in the sense of being a sort of Arabian rosy leather. So if you don't have time for those sorts of perfumes, don't worry, this isn't one of them. This really is Gucci Pour Homme taken slightly in the direction of Dubai, okay? And I remember the first time I smelt it, I thought, yes, thank goodness we have Gucci Pour Homme back again. And yes, I know that maybe technically means that I'm including on my list something that we've had before, but it is sufficiently different. And do you know what? I think the original is such a masterpiece anyway that I kind of don't care if we've got a kind of copy plus on the list. Fans of Gucci Pour Homme all around the world thanked Michel Almerac and his sons for bringing it back, and rightly so. And so much of what I love about this perfume, I mean, number one, it's great to wear. It really, really, really is very enjoyable to wear. It makes very good company throughout the course of the day. But it's that word I used a few minutes ago. It's the balance of all of those elements is just impeccable. You detect the symphonic effect of the whole, but you also detect the component parts. You've got that incense there, you've got the vanillic amber, you've got the pink pepper, you've got the cedar, now you've got this kind of heat of oud. He obviously just hit on a really great structure, Michel Almarac, I mean, to which he was able to add various elements without mucking the whole thing up. Again, I don't know how widely available this is yet in the UK. Certainly to start with, it was a Selfridges exclusive. It may still be a Selfridges exclusive for all I know. So if you have tried it, I would love to know what you think of it. I saw that there was another comment from Marta about number 19. It's quite true about number 19, but it's more like meditating in the forest in high heels and full makeup. I like that description as well. So a kind of formal meditation in a forest. I'll go along with that. So let's do number 7, I think. Why slow down the pace now while we're ahead? At number 7, another beautiful bottle. Have you seen what it is yet? And it's also another perfume by Bertrand Ducheffoul. 2 Ducheffouls in the top 10. Actually, I don't think that's the first time that's happened. But anyway, at number 7, or in 7th place... Well, no, not in 7th place, because this isn't in any order, okay? So this is absolutely not... I'm not making distinctions between the top 10. We have Nirol from Nila Vermeer Creations. I do have to say that bottle looks rather lovely in this light. I think everybody should hold their bottles up to the light. Okay, Nirol, and surely people have tried this one, I think, because the Nila Vermeer brand gets a lot of love on the internet. I personally have so much time for this brand, and I'm always interested to see what they come up with. Probably, if I had to choose my favourite from the brand, it would still be one from their debut trio. It would still be Traillis. But I really love Ashoka as well, and I actually wear Ashoka more than Traillis, even though maybe I think Traillis is the more accomplished, the more complex perfume. I don't know. I don't know what you think. Nirol, what makes Nirol interesting, well, many things make Nirol interesting, but what makes Nirol particularly interesting is that it's probably the most colourful thing that Nila Vermeer has given us, and that's very, very appropriate, because the whole inspiration of the perfume was the silk trade between India and the UK. And when you think about Indian silks, you think about saris, and then of course you think about those almost impossibly bright iridescent colours, the really bright turquoises and greens and purples and reds and yellows, this riot of colours. And Nila Vermeer's perfumes tend to be a kind of multi-sensory onslaught anyway. You almost don't know what to smell next in them because they are so rich. But visually, this is probably the richest feast she's given us, in the sense that if you close your eyes and smell Nirol, you just really do see so many colours. And it's a credit to Nila Vermeer as creative director, absolute credit to the technical skills and know-how of Bertrand Ducheffoul, that they were able to take this idea of the silk trade, the silks, and really give it genuine, convincing, coherent olfactory form. Because, yes, okay, we kind of see or imagine colours when we're smelling perfumes all the time, but I don't know if we see and imagine quite so many as we do as when we're smelling Nirol. What are we smelling? I think what we're essentially smelling is a kind of retro, again, inflected combo of violet and iris, with tons of other stuff, of course, because this is a Nila Vermeer creation. So lots of rose, lots and lots of sandalwood. You could probably name any material and you probably think, yeah, it's probably in there. I'm sure there's patchouli in there. I'm sure there are other woods in there. I'm sure there's a really great citrus note doing lots of work at the top. but even though there are lots of things in there, it's also extremely focused, and maybe that's why it manages to pull all of these colours out of your head. I mean, you've got purples and lilacs and definitely reds and greens and turquoises and blues. It's the last perfume that I can remember having a similar yet different kind of effect was the very first time that I smelled Andy Towers' Eau d'Épice, which I'm not even sure he makes anymore. He might, but I remember being able to smell the individual spices in it so distinctly. He'd got the spice notes balanced so right that it really felt like somebody was passing different spices to you under your nose, and you could identify every single one. Here, it's a similar kind of effect, but not with spices, just with colours, and it's really, really, really beautifully done. The violet also gives it that kind of slightly retro lipstick feel, which kind of works because maybe it takes you into the territory of older Bollywood films. I don't know if that was Neela Vermeer's intention, but nonetheless, a really, really stunning piece of work, and absolutely maintains the brand's reputation as being one to watch. So we only have 3 to go. Well, kind of 3, which is a good time for me to say again, you are watching episode 25. I cannot believe it's 25 episodes already. You're watching episode 25 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, here on Facebook Live. This is a very special end-of-year episode in which I'm presenting to you my top 10 of the best perfumes of 2018. Please give me thumbs up and hearts. I was going to say thumbs and hearts up. Thumbs up and hearts, etc. Ask questions, leave comments. If you're watching after the live broadcast, feel free to leave a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and feel free to leave a comment. A blog post to go with this list is going to appear on persolaise.com in just over 20 minutes. Peggy says, greetings, Peggy. Thank you very much for tuning in. And what have we had so far? We've done 7 already. So very, very quickly, on the list so far, we had Dawn from Frederic Malle, the Tycoon from St. Giles, Cuir Celeste from Ex Nihilo, Impressions Cedarwood Heart from Ostens, Dryad from Papillon Perfumery, Papyrus Oud from Parle-moi de Parfum, and just a few seconds ago I finished talking about Nirral from Neela Vermeer Creations. So, in the 8th perfume, I need to stop saying in 8th place, because it's not 8th place at all. It's not like that. I'm not building up to a number 1 or anything like that. But the 8th perfume, I don't have the sort of full bottle for this, but I do have a bottle which can represent it quite well. Now, you will immediately work out that it's a Tower. Funnily enough, we mentioned Andy Tower just a few minutes ago. This is Andy Tower's Oud, which he calls L'Oud, and he puts a letter H on the end, so it's L'Oudh. I've only got a few drops left, and this is one that needs to go on skin, I think. Are you going to be able to get this open? Okay, I've just got some there. Perfect. Right. Oh, look, the cap's cracked a little bit. Never mind. Sorry, Andy. Okay, right. That can live. Where's that going to live? That can live there. Is it going to stay in place? Perfect. Okay, now, Peggy says, love the shirt. Thank you very much, Peggy. I thought I would, put it on for all of you as we're approaching New Year's Eve. And Wukash says, Nirral, that emoji hasn't come out properly. That's the heart emoji, right? I hope you like I hope you like it, Wukash. Just say you don't if you don't, but I'm guessing you do like it. Okay, Andy's Oud. Oh. Andy Tower took a long time to give us an Oud. Now we have very, very few brands that actually don't have an Oud. Even Hermès launched an Oud this year with Agareben. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking it's only Chanel. I'm talking like, from the sort of big name, high profile brands. It's only Chanel and Glutins that haven't done an Oud. Every other single high profile brand has done an Oud. And the kind of Oud peak. Oh, Wukash says love Nirral. Good, me too. The Oud peak was with us maybe 2 years ago, maybe 18 months ago. And it was round about then that Andy Tower, sitting in his lab in Zurich, maybe thought, right, now I'm going to present my take on oud. And his oud does have that back to basics primer feel, almost like a kind of, okay, so all you lot think that what you've been smelling at airport duty frees is oud. Well, I'm going to show you what oud really is. And you know how we talk about, a perfume that just smells of rose being a soliflor of a rose. Andy's oud to me felt like a soli oud. Quite literally, like, the perfumer just sort of sat and thought, okay, I'm going to present this material in all of its facets. So I will use other materials to emphasize the top, and then I'll do something to emphasize the middle and something to emphasize the base. And this is quite a good way of introducing somebody just to what oud smells like, except that you'd have to explain that sometimes the material can also smell quite fecal, quite dung-like. That's the only facet that's really missing from Andy Towers, and I'm sure that was a conscious decision on his part to make it less fecal. It does still smell animalic, but in a leathery, suede-like way, and it absolutely has the woody and medicinal qualities of oud, though that petrol fume quality, that about to, fuel up a rocket and go charging through space quality. Very, very strongly spicy quality. I always kind of think of cloves and quite heated, fiery spices when I smell oud. And I gather it's been a success for Andy, and again, justifiably so, because if you do want an oud kick, if you just literally want to go out smelling of oud, you could do a lot worse than this. So the 8th perfume in the top 10 is Towers Oud, which, unless I'm mistaken, is now available in a different sort of bottle, a sort of proper Tower bottle. By the way, Wukash says, Agar Ben is gorgeous too. I bought a travel spray. Yes, I agree. I really, really like it too, very much. And only 2 to go. Well, kind of only 2 to go, because at number 9, I'm cheating. At number 9, I would like to present to you, ladies and gents. I really couldn't choose which one. Oh, hang on. Vitali says, I need to click on the tablet. Excuse me. Vitali says, Towers Oud is great and feels pure form indeed. Yeah, thank you. That's a good way of putting it. A friend of mine loves to layer it with Cuir de Russie by Le Jardin Retrouvé. Oh, interesting. Okay. Peggy says, I suppose it would depend on which type of oud he was using. Yes, whether it smells fecal, less fecal, more fecal. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it would. And maybe we can ask him. We can all ask him, and he'll tell us which oud he uses. Now, how am I going to do this? I've never held up 2 bottles before, but let's just do it like this. You've probably 2 bottles. You've probably guessed it's going to be an Amouage, and I couldn't decide. Oh, let's do it this way. But I had to include Imitation Man and Imitation Woman from Amouage. I just thought these were such a tremendous return to form from the brand. And not that the brand has like majorly lost its form over the years anyway. They always do things that are interesting. But I think the perfumers and creative director Christopher Chong really outdid themselves here. And these 2 took the current trend, the current sort of gentle veer towards, it's not really strong enough to be a trend, for looking at retro aesthetics, but they really made them their own and really took them in a kind of futuristic direction as well. So yes, they are very obviously 70s inspired. Christopher Chong very openly says that they're inspired by his time growing up in New York. But I don't think they're like any older retro perfumes you've smelt yourself. And they are both interesting in their own ways. Maybe Imitation Woman is just marginally more interesting than the Man. Maybe I think maybe there's a little bit more going on there. It's just so curious. I just love how Christopher Chong does not mind making his perfumes just a bit weird. I think that's what you want from a perfume. how dull is it to just keep smelling the same things over and over again? These are perfumes that you do kind of need to live with a little bit before you go, oh, okay, I get it now. I can see the beauty in this. So, yes, I could say to you it's an aldehydic floral, but that doesn't really begin in any way to tell you what smelling it is actually like. You know, for one thing, it's nothing like smelling Chanel No. 5, and that's an aldehydic floral. It's got real candle wax aldehydes to it rather than those sort of champagne bubble sparkling aldehydes. A very, very, very strong ylang-ylang note, a very strong citrus note at the top, maybe that kind of vintage lipstick feel as well. It feels like, you know, the past presented to you on a TV screen made by aliens from the future. You don't quite know where you are with it. Which is fantastic. You know, if you can't immediately figure out a perfume, I think it's a sign that it's doing something right. That smelling it and wearing it when it came out, and actually re-smelling it again now, it really made me think a lot of Superstitious from Frederic Malle, because that was a kind of grand aldehydic floral too, but based more on jasmine. And I like Superstitious, I'm quite fond of Superstitious, but I'm not sure it works all the way. Whereas I think Imitation Woman takes that idea and does make it work. Imitation Man is maybe just a touch straighter, but then I guess you'd expect it to be. It's a touch more legible, more immediately work-outable, but it's still really, really good stuff. See, I just personally love it when a perfume just makes me chuckle a little bit. That makes me think, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting to smell that. I wasn't expecting that dot to be connected with that dot over there. This is the one that's kind of got the vinyl accord that Christopher Chong talked about. And yeah, maybe that comes through in a kind of plastic-like feel, a cellophane feel, lots of patchouli, and, you know, completely unexpectedly, in a masculine scent, a violet, you know, that just kind of comes out of nowhere, and the first makes you think, okay, what's that doing here? And then the second thing it makes you think is like, well, who cares? It really works. And you know, do I think 70s when I smell it? Kind of. Not in the same way that I do when I smell Dryad. I smell an interpretation of the 70s. You know, maybe I smell, an imitation of the 70s. But it's an imitation that takes its inspiration and gives us something new. So it's not a cardboard cut-out photocopy by any means. And I just thought they were great. I thought they were great. And I also think that Opus 11 is great. And those of you who watched last week's episode will know that I actually made a decision that I'm pretending that Opus 11 is actually a 2019 release, because I thought I can't possibly have 3 Amouages, because that would just be too greedy or on Amouage's part. So joint 9th perfumes are Imitation Man and Woman from Amouage, which brings us to the very, very, very last one. Wukash says, I liked Imitation Man more, but that's because of Oris in it. Yeah, good point, thank you very much. Yeah, you know, that's fine if you preferred it more, but I just thought they were both really interesting. So I will present the 10th one, and then I will say my goodbyes and thank yous for the year, and then I will leave you in peace, and we will have, it's only 18 minutes or 19 minutes past the hour here, so we're doing well. And the last one is this. Okay, I don't know if you can make it out there, but it's Cardamusc from Hermès, composed by Christine Nagel. Christine Nagel revived the Hermès range this year. If you remember, way back it was created by Jean-Claude Helena, and then when he left for a short while, we didn't have any Hermès perfumes, but then Christine Nagel revived the range with a bang. She gave us 5 perfumes, 3 alcohol-based ones, and then 2 oils, Agar Arben, of course, being one of them. And well, this was I think this was always going to be my favourite, because I love cardamom anyway, and one of the I was going to say unmet challenges of perfumery. It was unmet until this year, but one of the unmet challenges of perfumery was to make a cardamom perfume that genuinely lasts. Oh, it's so good. Christine Nagel, I think, decided to do a very stripped down cardamom. She obviously thought, okay, well, what can I do to make the cardamom last? And she's basically combined it with musks. I'm sure there's other stuff in there as well. But even so, it does feel like a very, very streamlined, simple, uncluttered, unfussy formula. Very Hermès. Wukash says, if only it wasn't so expensive. Yes, I couldn't agree more. It is very, very pricey, but then, you know, we were talking about Frederic Malle's Dawn as well. I have not taken price into account at all with any of these perfumes, because that is a personal thing, whether you think a perfume is expensive or not. You know, the Amouages aren't cheap, the Nila Vermeers aren't cheap, so we'll leave that discussion for another day. But the Cardamousk takes both the coolness and the warmth of cardamom. Cardamom, of course, is an interesting spice. It's usually put into the category of cool spices, which is correct. But I don't think it is just cool. I think because it has associations with heat, particularly associations with tea. If you come from a certain part of the world, you can't help but think of higher temperatures too. And she just manages that balance of hot and cold so well in this. And the musks are never overpowering. The musks don't attract attention to themselves. And yes, it does last, and it slows down time. I remember when I was smelling this first few times, when I was first introduced to it, and then when I wrote about it, I constantly kept thinking of the Wong Kar-wai film, In the Mood for Love, and which, if you haven't seen, you really need to watch. And the bits of the movie where the music starts playing and everything goes into this very, very swooning slow motion. And that's what Cardamousk seems to do. It maybe because the evaporation curve, the evaporation time of the cardamom is slowed right down. It makes you think that everything around you is slowing down, and it's a really tranquil piece of work, a very, very refined piece of work. You know, like you kind of think of Japanese tea ceremonies as well. You almost wish there was a sort of Hermès Cardamousk ceremony where everything just happens at a much more civilized pace. And so there we have it. Very, very quickly then, not in order of preference at all, but just in the order in which I presented them to you. My top 10 perfumes of 2018 are Dawn from Frederic Malle, the Tycoon from St. Giles, Cuir Céleste from Ex Nihilo, Impressions Cedarwood Heart from Ostens, Dryad from Papillon, Papyrus Oud from Parle-moi de Parfum, Nirel from Nila Vermeer, Oud from Andy Tower, Imitation Man and Imitation Woman from Amouage, and Cardamousk from Hermès. The blog post with the exact same list but probably slightly different words will appear on Persolaise.com in just around 7 or 8 minutes. This video will, fingers crossed, remain on Facebook so that you can comment on it and leave questions to infinity and beyond. And I will try to do the YouTube upload as quickly as possible, so that people on YouTube can watch it as well. Marta's got a comment. You've got a few minutes left to leave comments and ask questions, people. Marta says, it may be a very predictable choice, but from this year's premieres, Zoologist's T-Rex blew my mind the most. But along, I've had an opportunity to discover Antonio Gardoni's work like Mem or Mai. I've heard a lot about T-Rex. I need to check it out because I think some of the zoologist stuff is very interesting. Ross says, thanks for a really interesting episode. Happy New Year, and a Happy New Year to you. Thank you very much for watching. Gemma, thank you for your wonderful and eloquent descriptions this year. It's been an absolute viewing pleasure. Happy New Year. That really means a lot, Gemma. Thank you very much for tuning in. Happy New Year, says Peggy to Mr. P and Madame P. Thank you for the 2018 vids. Thank you very much for all your encouragement and comments, Peggy. See you later in 2019, says Fahmi. Thank you very much indeed. And seriously, that is the note on which I want to end. Oh, hang on. And Gemma says, the most interesting perfumes I've discovered this year has been After the Rain by Paul Schütze. Yeah, interesting brand. Absolutely. Seriously, the note I want to end on is to genuinely, in a very, very heartfelt, sincere way, to say thank you to all of you. When I started these videos, I didn't think I would be making 25 episodes necessarily, but it's only because you watch and you interact and you comment and I always enjoy these hours. I enjoy not knowing where they're going to go. I enjoy not knowing what people are going to say. But also on the blog, thank you very much for all the support. The blog is going to be turning 9 in a few months, which doesn't seem possible at all. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much for subscribing. Thank you very much for the comments. On social media, thank you very much for all the likes and the messages. Seriously, it is all of the interaction with you that makes it all worthwhile. I always learn so much from you, and I always appreciate the fact that you take the time to write or leave a comment. Marta says, Happy New Year, see you in 2019. Yeah, hopefully. Karina says, thank you for your efforts, Happy New Year, and a very Happy New Year to you as well. And Łukasz says, by the way, we agree on quite a few favourite perfumes of 2018. Now that's interesting. I'll have to check your list out, Łukasz. Is it already up? Because there are so many perfumes out there, and there are so many people writing about perfume, there aren't very many overlaps on best of lists anymore, but if we have quite a few, then I reckon we've done well. So I will be checking out to see what you've done. Okay, whatever you're doing on New Year's Eve, whether you're having a quiet one or a riotous one, have a great time, but more importantly, have an even better year, and may it be happy and healthy and successful for all of us. Let us all try to be a little bit nicer to each other. Okay, take care. Thanks for everything. Bye.